and actually of two projects, the Dolores project, which was initiated by Zala Schmalz and myself with Luna Al-Hadidi from Jordan, and the FrontAg Nexus project, which is a large Prima Mediterranean project in the Mediterranean region. We decided to join these two projects in the webinar, well, to achieve a higher impact and also to profit from each other, from our different knowledge perspectives. And the whole webinar deals with circular soilless food production systems. And today it's kind of more introductory session with, so to explain the framework, why we are doing this, what are the rules of the games and so on. What we'll be doing in this webinar is actually, I will show you the structure of today. So today, I will explain what we are talking about here, what are the soilless systems and how the webinar is structured, and also about EELISA Alliance and its recognition system. Maurice Villarroel from the University of Madrid is, so to say, representative of EELISA in the working groups in this webinar. Then I'll show some of the experts, but not all. Many of them you will meet, because in each of these webinars, we will have, like it's written here in number 4, a small project spotlight or a partner for discussion, so that you get sort of an outside view out of Dolores and FrontAg Nexus. The main input today will be from at least one part of the reasoning why circular soil food production systems are relevant, specifically for arid countries like Jordan. And then in the end, I hope we'll have some time for questions and discussion. So what we are talking about? We are talking about systems that do not require soil, but we talk about aquaponics, aquaculture, hydroponics, and bioponics. Here are some systems, just pictures of them. There is on the left, a very simple aquaponic system, growing fish and vegetables in one water cycle. There is aquaculture basin tank with pink tilapia and pink zala. She is not soilless growing. And then there is an example of hydroponic and bioponic systems with two young researchers who were working on this soilless cultivation of lettuce. Later, I'll talk a bit more about lettuce. I must out myself as a lettuce hater. So what's the main difference between these systems? I'm definitely not going into detail. Hydroponics uses mineral fertilizer dissolved in water to produce plants that are either rooted in substrate or have their roots hanging in water, and the water can be released as wastewater or reused and again topped up with mineral fertilizer to be used again. The good thing about this is, about the hydroponics, is definitely the nutrient solution can be very, very precisely adjusted to suit crop requirements. There is a lot of research done on that. So there are apps that can help you to choose your nutrient solution. So the main, Aquaponics combines hydroponic cultivation techniques with aquaculture and uses the wastewater and sludge produced by fish as a source of fertilizer. Therefore, this fertilizer is of organic nutrient. However, sometimes, because the fish wastewater nutrients do not precisely match the requirements of the plants, supplementation with additional fertilizers may be needed. Not always, but often. And then there's this new kid on the block, bioponics. It's actually the idea is to use any kind of organic fertilizers, recovered, recycled, dissolved in water, to, again, like in hydroponics, fertilize plants that grow in soilless systems, and it can produce wastewater, which again can be either recycled or not. And also, again, depending on system design and crop choice, you will need maybe some additional, and depending on organic fertilizer you are using, like in aquaponics, perhaps some supplementation might be needed. So to sum it up, according to the fertilizer type, we have two possibilities. We have mineral fertilizers and organic or recovered fertilizers. And then we have different subgroups. But the rest of ideas between the different hydroponics, which you have probably heard of, like deep water systems, nutrient field technique, media grow beds, Aquaponics, Aeroponics, wicking systems, Kratky systems, Dutch bed systems, and on, that's just different cultivation techniques. That's the different nutrient solution delivery. It's not a basic difference like this one, which is between mineral and recovered fertilizers. What is the main strength of soilless system? I would say it's adaptability. People talk about producing more harvest per square meter or using less water. These all depends how good you are in your cultivation techniques. You won't produce a lot of harvest if you are not able to do it. You won't use less water if you are not able to do recirculation and manage the systems properly. However, the systems can be adapted to all kinds of situations, from exceedingly simple, also using very simple zero-cost materials like this Garrafa system developed by University of Bologna, using waste plastic bottles and charred rice husks and some waste wood. You can make it very simple. Here we in this system we used standard vegetable boxes filled with expanded ley aggregate, and this student was growing roses. But then you can have, of course, a highly sophisticated systems in fully climatized chamber. We like to call it vertical farming today because it's a sexy name, but it's just a very sophisticated soilless hydroponic system or bioponic. So you can really adapt all kinds of systems, from zero cost to endless cost, from all kinds of so that's the adaptability, that's the main strength of this system. So about our programming these days, we structured the webinar in two parts. The first part will be 2 parts of 7. The first part will be mostly dealing with fish and fish operation of RAS, apart from the last, which will be on simplified hydroponics by EELISA from University of Bologna. But the rest will go through the water quality, fish biology, fish health and welfare, fish feeding, and so on. And the second part, which you will have to register again if you do the both parts, it will be more about plants and also a bit of pond aquaculture and business cases. And then we'll have, like here, we have one webinar was introduction, and there we'll have one as concluding remarks, discussion, wrap up, and questions. So the goal of this webinar, especially in regard to Dolores project, is the theoretical basis of all these soilless systems. All this theory are also found in a MOOC, which is massive open online course of Zurich University of Applied Sciences on EDX platform. You have a link here. We can mail you perhaps the link again. because there you will find the learning materials, additional, the textbook, and additional videos. We'll show some videos during the webinar, but some stuff you can also then repeat, because the practice takes place in on-site training for the Dolores project in Jordan. We had similar trainings already in the framework of INCiTiS project, where we had on-site trainings in Ghana, Gabon, and Kenya. And because we like to focus on on-site training on practical aspects of doing stuff, it makes much more sense to do the theory either in MOOC or in webinar or separately. We also partnered with EELISA, that is European Engineering, Learning, Innovation and Science Alliance, which is an alliance of higher education institutions from different countries in Europe, where we mean to define and implement a common model of European engineer rooted in society. You can read more about ELISA in the link. Zurich University of Applied Sciences was also a new partner in this alliance, as is the Universitat Politecnica de Madrid, and they were the initiators of this alliance, and Maurice is the representative. If you participate, ELISA has a system of ELISA credentials, which is kind of a passport, certified, fault-free, IT-based, in which the student collects the evidence of their contribution to social science solving processes. Our SDG, where we contribute with this here, is actually the Zero Hunger SDG, food production. And these credentials have different levels. If you participate in this webinar each time, so 7 out of 7, you earn the discovery badge. If you also solve all the tasks that we will pose, each webinar will be a post, you will earn a knowledge badge. You can't earn the others, not in this framework. But you can read more about the recognition system online. So the credentials look like this. That's the credential that Zala and I got for one action in last June. So in level 1 discovery, you need 100% attendance. One webinar can be substituted by watching the video afterwards and submitting the task of that week to the moderator. This week it's me. And level 2 is knowledge. So you solve all the tasks and homeworks and submit these to the organizer, again, which will be announced each week, where to submit this. So there is a little meet the experts. These are just some of the people you will see in this. So they are mostly the experts are either from FrontAg or from Project Dolores, and with guests outside of these projects who will add their own perspective and spotlight on projects and theoretical insights and so on. So now I give the word over to my colleague Luna Al-Hadidi, who will present the team of NARC.
Thank you, Renka. And I would like to welcome everybody in this webinar. My name is Luna Al-Hadidi. I'm the Director of Water and Soil Directorate at the National Agricultural Research Center, known by NARC. I'm the principal investigator of FrontAg and also Dolores with the Zurich team. Also, this is the other team who are helping us in both projects. Next slide, if is okay.
Yes.
Some information about NARC. I would like you to know that NARC is the scientific arm of Ministry of Agriculture. We are the only specialized research institution on a national level. So NARC is considered the national umbrella for applied agriculture research and governmental agriculture consultations. Of course, NARC and for many decades implemented applied scientific research in many areas. And we carry many development also research funded by different governmental, regional, and international donors. Of course, our vision is to attach the importance and to reinforce the cooperation between our partners, local and regional and international institution, because this is NARC, as I told you, the NARC mission in research. Next, please, Ranka.
Yes.
We at NARC have 8 regional centers and almost 16 research stations distributed all over the country, and some of them specialize in certain agriculture pattern or agricultural, specialists. So we have field crop station, we have rainfed station, we have biosaline station, and like this. So a livestock also station. So it's all distributed all over Jordan. So this is the national distribution of NARC over Jordan. Next, please. Of course, I would like to address that our motivation in those projects came from the Jordan 2025 vision and the water national security and strategy, which aims to improve our water security. You know, Jordan is the second water scarce country in the world. Our per capita is almost 60 meter cube per year. So we are really below the poverty level of the water share. And our strategy managed to focus on integrated water management, and our economic growth plans now focus on new agricultural technologies such as hydroponic system to enhance the efficiency of agricultural system or sector in Jordan. Aquaponic and hydroponic, those systems are becoming very attractive because they are the most adequate to Jordan, as they consume a relatively very small percentage of water. But on the same side, they enable farmers to plant crops with yields up to maybe 4 or 5 times the traditional soil farming. Besides that, you can have some organic farming, so you don't have to add pesticides or minimum addition, with less labor and self-fertilization. So this is the motivation of NARC for this kind of agricultural work or techniques. And I think by this I finish the introduction of the partner, NARC partner. Thank you. And
Thank you, Luna.
Thank you.
So the next team is team of aquaponic manufacture. Michael, may I ask you to present yourself?
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Ranka. Welcome, everybody. We're very happy to begin our webinar series today and that we have so many participants. My name is Michael Reuter. I'm one of the CEOs of Aquaponic Manufacture. Together with my colleague Ingo Bleser, we founded our enterprise in 2014. And as the name suggests, we are busy in the field of aquaponics. Next slide, please. Our business areas and services are mainly in 4 different fields. We do aquaponics engineering, meaning that we do engineering for whole systems, but also for different components of aquaculture and hydroponics. We do the necessary nutrient balancing between the different parts in aquaponics, namely hydroponics or aquaculture, so that they fit well together in a system. And we also do modeling of aquaponic systems to do forecasts or better planning for future systems. Second part is project development. We help our clients to develop their business ideas based on aquaponics. We do the project management if someone wants to realize an aquaponic system. We do permit management and also construction management. So we help our clients to get from idea to running system in a whole process. Most of the time at the beginning, we do feasibility studies so that the partners know in advance if it really is a good idea to follow up the idea that they have for their business. And this encompasses system and operating concepts, revenue calculations, the calculation of capital expenditure and operation expenditure, and performance cost difference at the end. And at the same time, our business has always been very science-driven. That's why we participate also in many research projects. And here we see some of them. ProGirect was a project about urban cultivation of industrial areas. Closer Loop was looking into an urban farm and the feasibility of urban farms in a larger scale. And actually, we are working in INCiTiS-FOOD, which is a project on aquaponics in urban areas in Sub-Saharan Africa, and the FrontAg Nexus project that is part of the webinar team together with Dolores. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. EELISA could not be here today from University of Bologna. University of Bologna does a lot of research. They are part of FrontAg Nexus team on vertical farming, on controlled environmental agriculture, especially lots of work on light. And she will talk about simplified hydroponics at the end of this cycle. She can then present herself again. She's part of a research group in horticulture in Uni Bologna. The whole research group is led by Francesco Orsini, and they are involved both in FrontAg Nexus project, but also we cooperate in the INCiTiS project together. Last, hopefully not least, is Zurich University of Applied Sciences. Here, mostly the research group Aquaculture system will do on these webinars. I'm not going to talk very much about ourselves, but we do research on aquaponics since 1999, 1998, and on aquaculture. And well, this is our beautiful campus we are very proud of, with view towards Lake Zurich. And these are some of our facilities. You should probably come and visit us and see everything. Or maybe you will see parts of our facilities during this seminar, of course. The ZHW team is led by Sala Schmautz, who works on aquaponics, soilless cultivation, and aquaculture. I am actually retired, but still collaborate with Sala and with the group, which was actually my group when I was still young and fresh. And the other members of the team are Linda Chinnern, who will be leading the next seminar on fish welfare. She's an expert in fish welfare. And Luca Regazzoni, who will be talking in second cycle about small pond aquacultures. And perhaps he will appear as a guest in between sometimes. So that's who you will be meeting here. So why soil-independent production systems? There are many, many reasons. So first I will now show all the reasons, and then I will focus on just one. One is that urban and also rural soils are increasingly degraded. We have problems with also with climate change, but also continuous use of soils and the overuse and over exhaustion led to exhaustion of many soils and also to pollution. The environmental conditions, the whole climate can influence the plant growth, even in a very, very water-rich country like Switzerland. Farmers now have problems while the summers are becoming hotter and hotter and drier to grow, for instance, lettuce on their fields. Pollution poses a big risk to food safety and the level of harmful substances in food. I have read that like about 20% of agricultural soils in China are so polluted that it's not good for the products. There is also the potential presence of human pathogens in the soil. Again, we said global climate change is expected to lead to widespread regional shortages of food, water, and arable land by 2050, which is not that far away. So, and which is also, what is also interesting, it's physically easier to work with hydroponics than soil. This is why these systems, these soilless systems, can be very attractive to women. So soil-independent plant production can help reduce lots of risks associated with soil production. But what do the plants and people need? You see that organisms require, on one hand, macronutrients. That means just nutrients which should be available in larger quantities, and micronutrients. These are elements which should be available in small quantities, but they are nevertheless very important. So like animals, like we are part of animal kingdom, as macronutrients, we require organic compounds, proteins, fats, and carbohydrates. People who do bodybuilding call these macros, and you can calculate your macros in many apps. Also, fibers are an element which is part of micronutrients, which are very important. Now, as micronutrients, we need vitamins and microminerals, like water-soluble vitamins like B and C, fat-soluble vitamins, macrominerals, and microminerals. It's a whole host of minerals and vitamins that we need to get through our food. I'm not going to talk about what plants need now. This is a different story. So in addition, of course, everybody needs water. Now, if we don't get enough micronutrients, we are hungry. So hunger is distress related to lack of food. You know how it feels if you are hungry, especially if you are dieting once. I know all about that. But generally with nutrition, you can also have a micronutrient deficiency. You do not feel hungry. That's why it's called hidden hunger. It's a form of undernutrition that occurs when you do not have enough of micronutrients. You don't have enough of vitamins and minerals, and your health is then worse for that. A very, very well-known example is scurvy. When the exploration of the world with ships the sailors became scurvy and the teeth started falling out, but they didn't know the reason why that was. And once they figure out they need to take with them sauerkraut and citrus fruit, they could get rid of this scurvy. So causes for micronutrient deficiency are poor diet, disease, or increased micronutrient needs during pregnancy and lactation. And So undernourishment is chronic calorie deficiency. So you consume less than 1,800 calories. That's the minimum most people live. And undernourishment can be also overnutrition, is excess intake of micronutrients. So this is all malnutrition. But I would like to focus on hidden hunger, because so hidden hunger is micronutrient deficiency. And the problem is that it affects more than 2 billion individuals on this earth, or 1 in 3 people globally. It causes mental impairment, poor health, low productivity, or even death. Especially it's a problem with children, because during the first 3 years of child life, it can result in serious cognitive consequences, and even mild to moderate deficiencies can affect the person's well-being and development. So you can have really big problems with this hidden hunger, even if people are not consciously hungry. So there are you can see this is a slide from IPFRI about population fraction with selected micronutrient deficiencies. If you look at the children and pregnant women, you can see that certain parts of the world, and especially Africa, are especially children are affected with micronutrient deficiency. And you see, nearly 45% of children in Africa have micronutrient deficiencies, but also in Europe, 15%. A healthy diet to prevent this includes fruits, vegetables, and legumes, at least 400 grams of fruit and vegetables per day, excluding the starchy foods, and all other stuff. The rest of the things which are important is very little sugar, not too much fats, not too much salt. This is clear, but the main aspect where the hydroponics comes in, and aquaponics and bioponics, is providing the fruit and vegetables for this healthy diet. So these are some other examples of micronutrient deficiencies. For instance, if you don't have enough iodine, this causes brain damage in newborns. Nearly 1.8 billion people do not have enough iodine, but this can be remedied with iodization of salt. Iron, you risk anemia, you risk increased risk of maternal mortality, premature births, low energy. 1.6 billion people, predominantly females, are affected by this. Vitamin A, you can become blind if you do not have enough vitamin A. 190 million of preschool children are affected by vitamin A deficiency and are more susceptible to infections. They get night blindness, the increased risk of that. Also, zinc is very important for our immune system. 1.2 billion people do not have enough zinc. And now let's have a look. There is a certain standard recommended dietary allowance, how much micronutrients and vitamins people should consume. It's a long, long list. So I isolated just 3 vitamins and 2 elements from that, just to have an idea how this works. The list is from Harvard University Nutrition Source, vitamins, and it's measured in milligrams or micrograms per 100 gram, or in RAA, this is vitamin activity, has a special unit. You can read that up. So the recommended dietary allowance, this is it's different for different ages, for many elements, and it's different for males and females. Sometimes it's the same, sometimes there are differences. I took here the example of females aged below 50. So vitamin A, you need 700 units, vitamin C, you need 70 milligrams per 100 gram. You need 700 milligrams per day. Vitamin B, you need 400 micrograms per day. Folate, just folate. They need more, of course, women than men, especially in pregnancy. Calcium, you need about 1000 milligrams per day, and iron, you need 18 milligrams per day. Now have a look at this other part of the table. This table shows how much of this vitamin per 100 milligram of the food is in this food. And you can see I put in the bars, like vitamin A, potato has 1 unit, rice 0, iceberg lettuce has 6, spinach has 284, and strawberry 0. So what will you eat if you want to have enough vitamin A for every day? You're definitely not going to eat lettuce. You're going to eat spinach, because 100 grams, 300 grams of spinach per day actually more than covers your RDA. Again, vitamin C. Interestingly enough, potato is not even that bad, but you should eat definitely more strawberries than spinach. But this also helps. Vitamin B. Again, spinach is the winner. Calcium. Again, practically negligible in potato and rice, a lot in spinach. Iron, practically negligible in potato, rice, iceberg lettuce, but a lot in spinach. So, what do we learn from this table? Starchy foods, rice and potato, and we could list otherwise, have generally low vitamin content and will help with your hunger, but not against hidden hunger. Leafy green vegetables, especially those with intense green color and intense taste, or intense color like red peppers, fruits with very intense color, have usually high content of vitamins, of minerals, maybe more of some and less of others. That's why they say eat the rainbow. They say eat all colors, but intense colors of your vegetables, 400 grams a day. So when we grow food with the goal to improve the nutrition of people, it is advisable to take this into account. Just not grow just lettuce, but grow all kinds of different stuffs, and preferably very intensely colored, dense nutrient vegetables and fruit. I even made a little calculation, which I'm not going to go into detail because it will take too much time. An approximation, how much % of your recommended daily allowance for a certain vitamin you can produce on 1 square meter based on productivity in gram per square meter per day of a certain crop. But this productivity is in soil. And if you multiply this, but let's say optimistically 3 in soilless culture, you will lower these figures, calculated based on vitamin content and calculated through the vitamin RDA. So for vitamin C, on 1 square meter, you could produce 14% of daily allowance of one person. If we multiply this by 3, this means nearly 42% on 1 square meter. So if you have a family of 5, you would need 5 square meters to produce your vitamin C RDA for your family every day. This is slightly optimistic, maybe even not, but it means you can do a significant contribution on a small amount of area, and if you go vertical, even less, to contribute to vitamin requirements of your family. So, to summarize it, horticulture contributes towards mitigating hidden hunger, in contrast to agriculture. So agriculture produces grains, potatoes, legumes, and while horticulture produces vegetables, fruit, and mushrooms, and horticulture contributes mostly vitamins and micronutrients to our food, and it won't make you satiated, but it will make you healthy. Which is very interesting is that according to one publication, Martellozzo, you can find it if you Google it in Google Scholar, agriculture, if we would say, okay, we want to move horticulture into urban setting, or agriculture into urban setting, agriculture to produce grains, potatoes, and legumes for the global population would require 1000% of presently available urban space, which would mean it's not possible to do it in the cities. However, horticulture would require about 73% of urban space. So if we use our cities for horticulture, for soilless horticulture, we can really make a significant contribution. We cannot cover all the use for vitamins and micronutrients, but we can make a significant contribution against hidden hunger, which is also an argument to move the horticulture production more into the cities. Is also, one does not need to process the food grown, the vegetables and fruit a lot. You need to wash it, of course, or maybe cook it, but this is not a big processing, while the processing from grains, potatoes, and legumes is very often multi-step. Also, longevity. The food must be eaten, produced in horticulture, must be eaten fresh. So the best thing is you have it in your garden, you eat it yourself immediately. You have full control about what you are eating. You do not need a lot of mechanization. And however, the job intensity, labor intensity in horticulture, like jobs per hectare, it's measured in jobs per hectare, is much higher. So you need to put in your labor, but then you have rich pickings. And you can also, in case you produce more than your family needs, sell something, and the sale value is higher than for agricultural products. So today's task. I think I would have time for one question for the audience before, or should I explain the task first? What do you say? Who says what? Perhaps I explain the task and there will be maybe questions about the task. The task for those who missed the webinar today is obligatory. We will see the attendance list. And it's facultative for everybody who was here. You can do it if you want. Perhaps you are also just curious. Find out which three vegetables are most frequently consumed in your country. Alternatively, find a special vegetable that is cultivated in your country specifically and not in other countries, so that you know this is something special for my country. For these three vegetables, find data about their nutritional composition, cite the sources. Also for these three vegetables, find the data about the production rates, yields in soil, cite the source where you found it, maybe FAO statistics of your country, wherever. Make a comparison table and mail it to me. So this is something like this result would look like a template. You have your country, you name your country, you name your region, you put the Latin name of your 3 vegetables, you put the common name in English of your 3 vegetables, you put the common name in the language of the country, you find the yield of this vegetable in the field, and then you find what does this vegetable contain. Maybe you won't find everything, you know. It's possible that you don't find everything. But it's, you fill in whatever you find. I took my data, for instance, I will go back. There is a Swiss food composition database. I suppose there are also other nations who have their own food composition databases. This is accessible, you can download it depending on your vegetable. I have, for instance, in Swiss composition database, I didn't find okra. So if you grow and eat okra, which probably you do, I would be very happy to find okra table. If you eat other African indigenous vegetables, I would be very happy to find this number in my mailbox. That's the task. Now, our next reader is Emmanuel Benjamin. He will do this project inside, but before that, I have a bit of time to ask your questions, to answer your questions, if I can. Otherwise, Michael or Zala or whoever will help us. Just raise your arm and ask. You can also ask a question, type the question in the chat, and Zala will read it. She's following the chat.
Ranka, they are asking if they get the template for the assignment.
Oops. We could perhaps organize this, but how?
I have the emails of all the people that registered for the talks, meaning that after the webinar, we can also send them link with the recording as well as the template for the task.
Okay, good. I will send you the template. Okay. Oh, there is
question about the vitamin C and the heat.
Yeah, it actually, the heat does not destroy all the vitamin C, but too long, close to it, yeah. So actually, short cooking times should retain vitamin C. In this Swiss database, if you Google that, there is also there are also vitamin C levels like for cooked potatoes. There is still some retained. It's not that it's totally away. If you steam the vegetables, you do lose some vitamin C, but not everything. But vitamin C is especially susceptible, yeah. Other questions? If not, then we can still have a bit of time for discussion afterwards. And I will give over to Ben.
Thank you so much, Ranka. I hope you all can hear me. Thank you for the invitation, and it's great to be here. So the basic idea is to show you some of the evolutions of aquaponics and RAS in actual settings from an urban context. So next slide, please. The beginning of all this is I started off with this NGO in Nigeria that is quite research focused. It's called the A Globe Development Center. So at the inception of this NGO, one of the things we try to do is try to look for solutions that are quite applicable, and given all the issues in this world, ranging from climate change, population density, etc., that we all know, there has to be a pragmatic solution. So one of the things that we then tried to identify back then in 2000, when it started in 2019, is to look with a master's student from a German university in collaboration with a number of other participants, especially one of them is Professor Dr. Gertrude Buchenreder, to look at some solutions that would bring at least the urban and peri-urban population forward. I can't see the next slide. I don't know if it's moved, but...
Oh, no, it will move now.
Ah, okay.
Just you have to tell me when to move.
Oh, okay. So next
Then
slide, please. Exactly. So one of the things we did is we started off with such a system, such a chop and flip aquaponics system in 2019. And the idea was to use this system and collect data on the potential outputs and yield in an urban context in sub-Saharan Africa. So we started off with Lagos in Nigeria, which is has a population of over 20 million and has several issues related to food security, because we see food insecurity is becoming an urban phenomenon. And then what we did was to try to ensure that this also is powered by renewables. When I mean powered by renewables, we try to ensure, given the erratic power situations, sometimes plaguing urban cities, we try to use solar to run our systems. So with this start, we saw that this is viable, it's visible, although depending on the kind of resource streams you use. So depending if you use local materials available or if you use stuff more from the from exported components, we saw that this can then influence how valuable, especially from an economic and financial terms, this kind of system and prototype will be. So based on that data, we also got into another project which is led by Professor Dr. Buchenreder, the INCiTiS-FOOD project. And in the INCiTiS-FOOD project, we replicated again the same prototype, and this is exactly what you are seeing here, for awareness purposes. And at the bottom of the tank is where the fishes are, and the water is pumped into the grow beds, and there's the grow beds act as the mechanical filtration as well as the biological filtration, and returns the water back into the fish tank below. And then beside it, we also have an NFT. I guess Ranka would be discussing this later on. So please, the next slide.
Yes, coming.
Thank you. So one of the things we did after that was to look at a recirculating aquaculture system. And this, given that conventionally in the urban sphere, there's a lot of aquaculture still going on, especially in the peri-urban / urban areas, but it's very stagnant in nature. So they do more stagnant aquaculture where we realize and observe that every second to maximum third day, they just flush out water into the gutters, into the environment, and they pump new or fresh water into the system, and then every 3 days it's always the same thing. But the point is, over time, this would lead to accumulation of effluents and groundwater, which is very important all around Lagos, because that's where everyone gets their water source from, would end up bearing the burden of this type of practice. So one of the things we did was then look at such small systems that would be able to undergo through some filtration. And based on this filtration, we are using the same water to over and over again more or less for a whole complete cycle. So a whole complete cycle, I guess I don't need to define it for all of us, but for those who don't know, it is when we raise fish from the fries all through to the grow out stage. So what we realize is that in the RAS system, it is quite doable, even with a minimum of 12 to 14 hours of electricity. You will still be fine depending on the kind of fish. And this would really help to actually promote environmental friendly practices rather than support the degradation that is being seen currently in the aquaculture practices in this urban and peri-urban context. Next slide, please.
Yes.
So finally, thank you, Ranka. As part of the INCiTiS-FOOD project, like I said, this has been a build-up to, so you see the evolution. We started quite small. We expanded the small system we had, and then being partner in this INCiTiS-FOOD project help us even expand further. And what you see here is the expansion that we are currently working on. So we are using now not only just the grow beds, but we are using also the DWC, so the deep water culture, and using that as a basis to also extend further the aquaponics units in urban areas that are suitable and would promote food and nutritional security, as well as empowerment, especially of vulnerable groups. So what we've done then is to look at a typical backyard. We do a kind of a semi-controlled environment in a screen house, and given some of the knowledge we were able to take from our past experience, we are bringing it in here and looking at some of the more viable crops that needs to be propagated for us to have a much more befitting experience. Like Ranka said, with okra, you can see we did a bit of okra. We take more leaf from Ranka as not being too much a propelment of lettuce. Now I see it even from this, from the previous screen Ranka showed, that we gravitated more towards the spinach. And nothing against growing lettuce, please, but I'm just saying that this might be a much more reason looking at the contribution of spinach to the whole vitamin and nutrient scale. Next slide, please. But I guess that is the end. So that will be more or less from our end. And I want to also thank INCiTiS-FOOD, all the partners we did in INCiTiS-FOOD, as well as the team from ADC. So Victoria, Sulaiman, Hikimot, as well as Mr. Abiola for their wonderful work. I'm just the presenter here. They do the work. I just present. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ben. So actually now we have ample time for discussion. Perhaps you just ask the question. We know, for instance, that people in EU sometimes hesitate about Soilless because they feel it's not natural. I mean, on the other hand, nearly all vegetables that we import in Europe from Netherlands are grown soilless. So I don't quite understand why this. I think it's more the awareness that it's soilless and then starts to bother people. But as long as they don't know what they are doing, what they are eating, they just eat it. But what do you feel about this? Soilless or not soilless? What do you say, Ben, Emmanuel, Ben?
For instance, in our case, at least we don't see this this from the African context, at least I can talk from the African context,
Mhm.
people tend to be more open to the idea of soilless, and the idea that it's unnatural seems to disappear once the mechanism behind this is explained to them. So they seem to get it that, okay, it's not growing on rocks. So what is the idea behind all this? Oh, okay, it's some kind of actually, they even tend to see it more in the organic sphere. So as long as it's something coming from the fishes and it's what is being used to support the nutrients of the plant growth, and they then say, okay, now this is more of interest to us. So we have not really seen questions of unnatural, the unnatural behind all of this. Instead, we see more fascination that, okay, this can be done, and it's more or less like it's quite logical to them, and it's not something unnatural. Maybe in Europe, it might be something that is a bit more it's contentious, so they tend to try to look at it in the nitty-gritty up all the way to the basics. So probably that might be an issue.
Yes. Amer, you wanted to contribute
Yeah, I
something?
just wanted to have a comment about what Emmanuel is saying. I think there was a paper yesterday published in Nature saying that dealing with the nature-based solution will have more resilience of a climate change, and that is evidence in developing countries. I'm wondering if it's risky to work with hydroponic system in countries where they don't have access to safe or clean water. And also, based on my experience, I was traveling in Africa and I saw, like, for many countries, they struggling to collect clean water. And what is the ideal situation, or is it going to be based on personal experience, or like as a commercial companies that will go to have such a systems? Emmanuel.
So that was directed to me. Okay. So if I understood your question correctly, the first one was how, I mean, from the paper you just mentioned, when it comes to water scarcity, you're talking of how to approach this with hydroponics. Is that correct? So depending on water availability and water scarcity.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
Okay. So yeah, I mean, I tell people that for instance, in Lagos, where we currently operate, there's somewhat an abundance of water. When we go to the northern part of Nigeria, then it becomes a different ball game, right? So, and what I mean by a different ball game is that you have to ensure, because there first, sometimes you might have water salinity. So you might have to redesign or reconceptualize how you go about this. And there is really, I mean, we're talking almost 45 degrees almost every day. And where there's no water, it's desert-like. So you really need to understand that when you get to such system, your filtration must be at top notch. So that means whatever you do, you must ensure that even in this kind of aquaponics system, you really have to have a filtration that is really top notch, that even like we all know, 10% loss in RAS is the norm of the day. But then when you really get to these regions, you really need to have a prototype, a system that really does not play around with water. That means really when you do the filtration and the recycling, and even when you consider the evaporation, you really need to ensure that the system is working really at top notch. But then when it comes down to this, that means it becomes way more expensive. So we're not talking really, and this also requires a bit of high knowledge skill. So if you are trying to even introduce capacity building to this, it means the people have to be really in on this, right? So I don't know if that answers your question, but it's context specific. And the more you go to regions where the water is quite scarce, that means your prototype or your system has to be playing at a real high level. Automation.
I think each African country has like its own scenario. I think because the lack of good infrastructure, for instance, or let's say the mentality of the people there, they still, maybe they are not convinced with the traditional, they still stick to the old mentality of traditional way of farming or so on. But I witnessed with my eye, I mean, even the rainwater, we were filtering the rainwater for some school to have a good water for drinking or for even wash issues and hygiene and sanitation. So it's great to consider hydroponic system in these countries, but we have to be aware of the diseases that could be waterborne in these environments.
Absolutely.
That is totally true. But if you have sort of the only source of water is sort of doubtful quality, let's say effluent of your laundry machine. We made a little project from our school in South Africa with that. Then you can have a pre-treatment stage before, or treatment stage before you use it for the hydroponics. I mean, it is not, you can still use the nutrients that are there, but you need to have a treatment stage, which of course maybe even hygienization with UV lamp or some other methods of hygienization. It can be kind of nature-based solution. Then of course things become more complicated, but if you have no water to be had, then recycling the alternative water sources, so to say, so-called non-conventional water sources, is also an option. It does not need to be tap water or groundwater. One problem in Europe that I see is that the European legislation does not distinguish between, like American legislation, United States legislation distinguishes between organic hydroponic, like bioponic, and traditional conventional hydroponic. European legislation does not make this distinction, and any hydroponic vegetables grown, also if grown with organic nutrient sources, cannot be labeled as organic in Europe. And it's not just a question of labeling, because the whole framework does not allow for this distinction. I think this is also in the heads one of the reasons why in Europe there is certain mistrust. There was another question in the chat about the energy use of these systems. Many systems that like the systems that Ben showed here, they require a pump. But this pump, so the question is, where does the energy come from? So how did you solve this question, Ben?
Yeah, thank you for that question. So the idea was there are two things that I would always vouch for when it comes to, and over the years that we've seen. So first is, for every system, I would always recommend not only the pump, but an aeration system. So, and aeration, if you are going to go with it, it should be something that has the capacity to also be hooked onto a direct current. So that means even a basic bare car battery, truck battery, it should be able to work with that aeration. It would be a lifesaver at some point in time. The energy issue, like I said earlier, we knew going into this that energy is always a problem depending on where you are in sub-Saharan Africa. It's not all, I mean, these are 54 countries, so some countries are more energy rich than others. Nigeria, for instance, even in a city like Lagos, on average, you have areas where they only have 8 hours of electricity a day. There are places where they have 20 hours of electricity a day. There are places where days they don't even have electricity. So that's how diverse that is. And to take care of that, what we did was to have, from the onset, solar powered system. Nothing really crazy, made up of just the regular components, charge controller, an inverter, and just 2 batteries at most. And this was to be able to just power these systems. And what we found is that since we are using mostly between 10 and 30 watts of batteries, of pumps, sorry, capacity, this works completely fine. And with the pumps, with the aeration, like I said, it was also somewhat within that range, within 20, 40 watts aeration. And based on such solar system, we were able to overcome the energy challenges. And that was our main source of energy that complemented the grid. So grid you would have for maybe overnight, maybe 7-8 hours, and during the day they ration it, so that is supplemented by the solar energy. I don't know if that answers the question, but that's how we went about it.
Yes, thank you. I would say so. But however, I think it's important to stress that a very simple hydroponic systems does not need any pumps and batteries. It needs manpower. You can just pour the water yourself and then collect it, and like twice a day or whatever. So it is possible to build nice hydroponic systems without any additional pumping, aeration and stuff. But then, of course, energy has to come from somewhere, then it comes from manpower. Zala, did you notice any other interesting questions in the chat? I'm not able...
Yes, there was one really good question from Georg. He was asking, just let me find the question, if there are any studies comparing the difference in taste and nutritional value between hydroponics and aquaponics when you talk about the products.
Well, Zala, you can answer that one.
So yes, as part of one of our studies, we did that. We analyzed the tomatoes coming from aquaponics and hydroponics. The same we did also for the lettuce later on. And when you talk about the nutritional value, aquaponics, it's always somewhere in between of the nutritional value and nutrient composition between soil and hydroponics. So it's kind of a mixture between both. I cannot say that one is healthier or less healthy. However, there are some vitamins that are a bit different. And this can come from the fact that in aquaponics, plants sometimes are a bit more stressed because not all nutrients are available in exactly the same amounts. So in tomatoes, Ranka, do you remember what?
Yes, more antioxidants.
Exactly. So this was for tomatoes, and for lettuce was more or less the same. And
But the
taste was, yes, also taste was good.
It was actually better, because especially tomatoes, I mean, we tried also many years ago, like 25 years ago, we cultivated, a colleague of ours cultivated vegetables in effluent of a methanization plant, and also parallelly vegetables in hydroponics. And then we had a tasting, but that's so many years ago. And I mean, I swear the ones from bioponics, we didn't call it that like that time, were better. And probably this has something to do also with the salt content of the water, but or maybe with other elements. But I still remember vividly we had kohlrabi, you know, this green kohlrabi in little sticks, like for crudité or for dips, and we're eating, and they were significantly better from our wastewater fed cultivation than from the hydroponic cultivation. So, but there are not many, because proper tasting experiments require actually quite a lot of infrastructure. Our food department at our school has this, and you need double blind tests, and all this is rather complicated. So I believe that's one reason why there are not so many studies about this.
There is also one other fact that it's really important. When you cultivate the plants in soilless systems, also nitrate levels, especially in leafy greens, can be quite high. However, if you provide a bit of ammonium into the system water, you can reduce the nitrate content. And one of the main parameters for the quality of the leafy greens is nitrate content, as it has to be as low as possible. So
especially for kids. Yeah. So, any more question? Oh yes, Amer has a question.
I just wanted to comment on Zala's answer. What about the microbial community in the aquaponic system? I mean, they are striving for carbon source in order to degrade the nitrate or like the ammonia. Have you make any balance or like let's say a clear model about the abstraction of the carbon source for the microbial community in comparison with the plant uptake?
Especially for carbon not, but in aquaponics anyway, you get more carbon with the fish feed
This is a
compared to
good
the
question.
soilless cultivation. However, in my opinion, that's actually much better because you have more diverse microbial community compared to the hydroponics cultivation. So what we find out is that if you have microbial community that it's more diverse, also your system is a bit more stable, meaning that chances for the bad microbes to come in the system, they have less options.
Because there is more competition. So actually, it's more like anecdotal evidence, but most aquaponic growers report that they have less disease in fish and less disease in plants than separate cultivation. Of course, there is the problem that you have to adjust the system much more finely, fine-tuning if they work together. But if you, you do get some benefits out of it, definitely. So Zala made actually quite a detailed investigation of compartments of aquaponics and hydroponics in terms of microbial diversity for her PhD. So, yeah. But it's not that simple to go there and just take samples and think that the one sequencing will solve or give all the results, because it's so all over the place. So did you notice any other questions? If not, we will slowly conclude today. If there is anything, is there anything in last 2 minutes that was especially unclear that I should maybe clarify again or something? Otherwise, we conclude. Everybody who was here, who is registered, will get a link to the video, and will get also this template for the vitamin and macro content of vegetables, where I'm looking for the answer together with my mail address. So you can mail me. And then we meet in 2 weeks where Linda, is she still there?
She's still here, she's still here.
This is Linda. Linda will talk about fish welfare and discuss also the fish welfare aspects and views with Maurice Villarroel. So you can look forward for the next meeting in 2 weeks.
And if somebody somebody else that would like to join us, they should just register and I will forward them information so they can join us then from the next webinar further.
So thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you too.
Thank
See you
you.
in 2 weeks.
See you next
Thank you.
week.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thanks. Bye.
Thank you
Bye.
so much.
Thank you. Bye.